A very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of the third edition of afaqs CMO Week. For this edition, our theme is product and marketing innovation. After starting off yesterday, over the course of the next 3 days, we will have in-depth discussion with brand marketing leaders across product groups like consumer electronics, e-pharma, and BFSI. The idea is to analyze how product and marketing innovation has become a survival strategy for CMOs caught in the crosshairs of a challenging reality. To begin with, I'd like to thank our session sponsor, My Smart Price. Thank you, My Smart Price and team. On the panel, we have Anuj Siddharth, Deputy Director, Marketing and Corporate Communications, MediaTek; Deba Ghoshal, VP and Head of Marketing at Voltas; Justin Zhonghui, Head of Marketing at ECL; Kumar Gaurav Singh, VP Marketing, Whirlpool India; Madhur Chaturvedi, Head and Director and Head, Tablets and Laptop Business, Samsung; Nitin Mathur, who's the co-founder of 91 Mobiles; and Shirish Agarwal, Head Marketing Communication and Brand for Panasonic. Now introducing you to the moderator of the session, Ishad Kalibullah, Editor-in-Chief, mysmartprice.com. Once again, thank you everyone for joining. Over to you, Ishad.
Thank you so much, Devashish, for the introduction. Welcome to everyone on the panel, and we'll get started. So today we're going to be talking about, acing the online shopping research experience in the Flipkart and Amazon era. Now, to set some context, right? Electronic buyers, especially the digital natives, start their buying journey by researching on platforms such as, Google, YouTube, and specialized gadget websites such as, of course, 91 Mobiles and My Smart Price weeks in advance. In fact, while prepping for this, session, I chanced upon a couple of interesting stats as revealed by the 91 Mobiles Gadgets Buyers Survey. Nearly 68% buyers research a new phone on gadget sites or YouTube before heading to the store, whether online or offline. And more than 40% of the buyers take more than 2 weeks before they decide on a new phone. I'm pretty certain that 5% of that 40 would be watching some of our reviews, at least hopefully. So jokes apart, this brings me to my first question, and I'd like to start with Mr. Kumar. If we can quickly get your opening remark on what your buyer, segmentation looks like, and if you can tell us what your brand strategy is when it comes to, influencing the buying decision of top of the funnel buyers before they reach Flipkart or Amazon.
Yeah, hi, thanks. I think defining the buyer is always the trickiest part of it all, right? And I think while there are multiple tools that enable for you to define your cohorts or your shopper and define where they are, eventually it needs to also meet the way you actually do acquisition online. And sometimes getting those two coming together is where the biggest journey is, I think, for any marketer to make sure that we can actually get acquisition strategies to talk to shopper strategies. I think that for me is perhaps the starting point to define the buyer and kick off the journey on building our entire digital marketing strategy. So today, between active evaluators, intenders, early stage considerers, early adopters, there are multiple ways that we can actually define shoppers. Whereas you actually look at walled gardens like a Google or a Facebook or even a marketplace that perhaps defines audiences more from the kind of interest groups that they are, right? So between home decor specialists, between cooking enthusiasts, and looking at perhaps even parents who are at a certain stage in life. I think this is the place where you see actually acquisition strategies driven there for more out of interests. And I think that's where the journey starts, where the acquisition strategy meets the shopper strategy.
Right, that's wonderful. Mr. Deba, you want to add something on top of that to what Mr. Kumar has said?
Yes, I think we're pretty much there in terms of the dynamics of the buyer as such. But I just like to take it a little more broader, taking a step back and making it a little more from a category perspective. E-commerce has been there for a long time in India from a durable perspective. But recently, we have seen a huge surge. Almost, I think, 20% of people are buying durables online today in terms of volume, and it's a big ticket. 3.3 lakh crores of industry size. Out of that, 86,000 crores is bought online in India, right? So that's a big number. I'm talking about all combined together. Then you almost have 390 million units of sales happening across the spectrum of CDIT. We call it consumer durables and IT. Out of that, 78 million units are sold online. So this is a huge number. Where is it coming from? It's coming from the consumer, right? Because it's not going to a channel. It's an end user data. So that's a big amount of numbers we are witnessing over a period of time. FY 19, 18, 19, it was 15%. 20, it went to 20%. 21, pandemic year, 25%. CDIT contribution, online to CDIT contribution. That's huge. We didn't see that happening in the previous years. Within the CDIT business, you have the major appliances, the smaller appliances, electronics, mobiles, IT. The smaller appliances contribution comes to almost 30%. Bigger appliances, because of touch and feel and all, it's around 10 to 15%. Electronics, 30%, 35%. It's going that much. Small domestic appliances, 45% has gone in FY21. So see the shift. 20 to 45% of people are buying online in the last 12 months. So it's serious business. And what's driving this? Of course, search. Of course, search dynamics is driving this. You got to invest in that direction to know your consumer and to track your consumer. If you're not doing that, there's something wrong with your digital strategy. And for us, it's very important. We need to invest at least 1/4 of our digital monies on search, at least 1/3 on e-commerce platforms, and balance can go somewhere else in terms of OTT, display, and other stuff which builds a brand. But the shift is towards performance marketing. The shift is toward tracking the consumer and who's the consumer, and that's where the returns are. So that's all I'd like to add on this. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Deva. That's actually pretty insightful. Mr. Shirish, do you want to add a few words as well, if you have any thoughts on the same?
Sure,
how do how do you have completely strategized your buying decision for your buyers?
Yeah. So let me just correct the data point that you mentioned at the beginning. There was a consumer durable study done by BCG and Google in 2019. Okay, that study states that 65% of the in-store buyers and 60% of the online buyers take 2 to 3 weeks of time on researching before they make up their mind on which brand or a product that they have to buy in a consumer durable category. And of course, this search is actually happening on digital platform. And one of the reasons why people take this much time before making up their mind, because when I'm buying anything within a consumer durable category, I know that I'm locking myself for a longer period of time in comparison to any other product category if you look at. For example, the life cycle of a refrigerator is 11 years. So hence they do a thorough research before making up their mind. Okay. Now coming back to your question, I don't think that e-com platforms actually play a role only at the time of a purchase stage. In fact, 50% of the product related research is happening straight away on Amazon. Google is the second platform with 49%, and then you have Flipkart, which is 35%. This is another research done by Cantor in 2020 Q3 data that I'm referring to. Okay, so e-commerce platforms are also equally important when it comes to discovery or research phase. So I straight away go to e-com platform, and one of the reasons is because it's more of a kind of a validation of the decision that I'm taking, because I go there, I read reviews, I go through ratings and all that. So it just strengthens my decision making, and it makes me more informed. So you can't limit e-com platforms only at the time of purchase stage. I think it's equally important throughout the consumer decision journey. And we as a brand ensure that we are present across all the platforms, across all the touch points, and provide content that actually can help consumers in making that informed decision. That is our endeavor actually.
Great, awesome. Just a point of suggestion to people who are watching, the attendees. You can ask your questions in the chat box, and if we have time in the end, we'll definitely take them as well. But moving on to the second question, and I'd like to start with you, Nitin. With digital, marketers today have the power to define and target key buyer segments they want to go after. Now, how do you define and segment buyer audiences for your brand? And and is this segmentation different for online and offline?
Sure. So we obviously work with many gadget consumer electronic brands to help with launches and marketing strategy. I think one distinction I'd like to draw over here, right? So typically, most people would talk in terms of a TG, right, which is sort of someone who's male, 25 to 42, stays in tier 1, tier 2 cities, in those lines. And that's good to have a picture in your mind of what your customer looks like and to design marketing communications. But when it comes to digital, I think, you can do a lot better. And I'll tell you why, because in the smartphone space, for example, anybody could be a prospective customer, but in any given month, there are maybe 10 to 12 million sort of smartphones that are sold, right? And in case of appliances and other categories, that number would be even smaller. It would be in the lakhs, right? While the TG itself may be in the crores, right? If you're saying a housewife buys a washing machine or something like that, there'll be crores, but the people who are buying in any given month are in the lakhs. So now, assuming limited marketing money, right? It makes sense to focus your spends on what we in digital parlance call the in-market audience, right? Which is the set of people who are looking to buy at any given point of time. And there are many ways to identify this audience nowadays. Sites like ours and yours as well, Rashad. I think we get a huge number of people. 91 Mobiles gets about 50 million people every month who are looking to make a buying decision. And I think 60-70% of this would be mobiles, but 30-35% would also be a lot of the other categories. And this audience is there with us 2 to 4 weeks before they're going to purchase. So there is some period of time where we know who's looking for what, and we work with partner brands to design communication to them. But in terms of segmentation, we broadly classify this in two ways, right? So if someone is looking to buy right now, we can the two broad classifications we use are that either that person can be a brand neutral buyer. So that person is right now searching in terms of either a price or a feature, doesn't have a real brand preference per se, right? So someone's looking at, let's say, 1.5 ton AC or a front load washing machine, right? So that's one type. The other type is someone who has a brand preference. So is looking at, let's say, a Whirlpool washing machine or a Panasonic AC or something like that, right? So we strongly feel that this should be the starting point of any segmentation online, because not only can you know who's in the market to buy using data from sites like us, and we have pretty much the next highest consumer buying data after Flipkart and Amazon as a platform with 50 million people a month. You can sort of design communication specifically to not only who's in market, but who's in market with what sort of an intent, and market and keep your strategy accordingly. Very quickly, like one other way that we also segment is in terms of buying funnel, right? Where you are in the buying funnel. So if you're top of the funnel, where you're trying to figure out that, do I need a window AC or a split AC? It makes sense to show you an ad for a particular brand at that point in time, right? You need a different sort of communication for something like that. So phase of the funnel, where the user lies, is another thing that we help identify and target. We've implemented a very successful strategy on these lines for MediaTek, and I think Anuj is on the panel as well. So I think I'll stop speaking now and maybe let him weigh in on it with his thoughts later on as well.
Sure. Thanks, Nitin. And indeed, we have some, great journey with 91 Mobiles. But before I get into it, I just wanted to give, some background, to the fact that even Shirish also mentioned a few pointers here. But, as we know that every consumer goes through a certain interesting journey before they end up buying a product, right? The same holds even true for both, traditional or a brick or mortar sales as well. We all understand today, right? Well, even if we're all jumping onto the shopping on e-commerce portals also. Well, I would typically like to break this journey into 4 typical parts. Some of it, you already mentioned, awareness, evolution path, purchase, and of course the post, experience after consumers have bought the product. And interestingly, prior to COVID, 19, as we know since last year, consumers, they used to hop a lot, between the offline and the online channels, right? They would probably be searching the products online, and eventually they would go to the store to buy the products, or perhaps even they would be at the store and then they would be doing a lot of online researches. So perhaps, with the change in the consumer behavior, the interactions with the brands is probably becoming more inclined towards online, as we have, heard some of the experiences today, from the fellow panelists here, right? But that's how probably the real challenge for brands now lies, establishing the brand loyalty, which I feel, right? And which is only possible if at all we truly understand the rapidly changing in needs of today's consumers, across probably different domains, different product or verticals, right? Whatever we are catering to today, right? And I believe, this is where this new age of digital marketing is playing a vital role, probably, in that of audience segmentation. We talk about targeting some strategies, which really play a very, very vital role here, right? Particularly for a brand like us at MediaTek, wherein we are powering 2 billion connected devices a year. So we are always, wanting to be, innovating with some kind of new ideas to address, these online challenges, which is ongoing. And one thing, which has actually brought a lot of value has been, probably establishing these knowledge hubs platforms. And that's when I would like to take a great example, of MediaTek Hub, which we have at 91 Mobiles as well. Towards 2019, perhaps, we had launched our chipset series called as MediaTek Helio G series, which were transforming the gaming segment. And we were also trying to establish ourselves as a market leader positioning that time, wherein 91 Mobile gave us a great opportunity to consolidate the information based on various product segments, giving consumers easy access, for the data, whatever they require, was available. And that was not only for smartphone, but for the smart devices as well. And we were able to leverage the users, not only, with the research kind of a data and all, but smartphones, people, they used to even visit us, for technology buffs, probably they would used to visit us, and we were able to provide whatever information they were, needed at that during time, So the users only used to not only research for smartphones, but we were also used to direct them to the e-commerce sites, after they have decided what they want to go ahead with, and perhaps trying to bring them towards end of the funnel. So the benefits of content syndication, I believe, it really supports various marketing initiatives by providing the user consolidated an overview of whatever industry experts they have to say about it, or whatever is there about the product or the solution. And finally, at MediaTek, we are, making sure, that whatever information, end user wants, that should be available. Because the final goal I think for all of us here is to, empower the lives of consumers with the best of the experiences, for them.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ramasdaras, for the insightful. Now, you mentioned something about content syndication and synergy. Now, content marketing is definitely one of the most important things that goes behind the influencing the purchase decision of any prospective gadget buyers. Now, again, is this any different for the digital savvy audience? And I'd like Madhur's take on this. If you have any thoughts on how you use content marketing, if you have used content marketing to influence the decision of your digital buyer.
Sure, Irshad. I think content marketing is very important for us when we put out messaging around our brand or products to our consumers or people who we are intending to be our consumers. There are a few things that we have learned along the way when we've used content marketing. The first thing is, of course, there's so much content that all of us are getting bombarded with across various platforms by brands and non-brands, right? When I open Netflix these days, there's just so much stuff to watch. Half the time I just shut it down because I can't decide what to invest my time behind, which show or which movie to really go for. And hence, how do you cut through that clutter in terms of fun, engaging content, which is of the right duration, that holds the attention of your audience and your consumer? I think that's very important. Very interesting example, not from a brand content point of view, but something I noticed, for example, on OTT right now. Very often, all of us would take 10 minutes, watch 10 minutes of an episode to decide whether I want to invest behind this series or not. Now, Hotstar has launched series, which is of a 10-minute episode. So by the time I decided, the episode was over, and I was like, hey, I watched one episode, let me watch another one, right? So very snackable, interesting take on not just, I'm not talking about brand content, but content in itself. The second thing is, how do you involve your consumers in your and users in your content creation? that brings the next level of genuinity to the content rather than just brand speak or brand ambassadors talking about the content. We do that through our members community. We do that through some student ambassador programs that we have done. They create content for us, put it out on social media as well. And it's not easy. You have to find ways to moderate the content so that it's of great quality, but at the same time it has to appear genuine as well. So there's a thin line there. The third angle is your content has to talk to your products. So a great example of that, and two examples. When we launched the M series devices in India to establish battery superiority, we did these monster challenges with some celebrities. For example, Amit Sad was a TV actor. He went on a bike ride in Ladakh on a single charge, right? And that was just a great piece of travel video, but it talked to our product superiority as well. It was, I think, in my view, a great example where we could combine, we could actually create an entertaining film for people to watch, as well as showcase our product at the right moments of that film. Another great example, and this is many years ago when Ford launched EcoSport. They gave EcoSport to a lot of influencers, and that time influencer marketing was not as big in India as it is right now. They said, "Hey, we'll pay your tank, we'll fill your tank for the next 6 months. Go visit all parts of the country, blog about your experiences with Ford EcoSport." One of my wife's friends was the lucky ones to get that for 6 months, and that was again a great example of creating content that was genuine, very interesting for viewers to watch, and at the same time talk to the uniqueness of the product that the brand was trying to promote. So I think these have been some areas and some learnings that I've seen as we have gone about using content. And the last one learning that I would like to share is you have to be ruthless with your content as well. If something is not performing, you have to kill it and move on to the next thing, even though it might have taken a lot of effort to develop it. I think if it's not working, kill it, move on, move to the next piece of content and try it out.
We do that on an everyday basis, actually. As the editor-in-chief of a publication, that's something that we keep doing over and over again. Take a look at what works, what doesn't, and keep changing that. And I completely understand your point of view, Mr. Madhur. I'd like to also bring in, Justin into the conversation and understand if TCL is doing anything interesting with respect to content marketing. Mr. Justin, if you have any points to add.
Yeah. So yeah, I think when it comes to content marketing, and at least for me, from the start of my tenure here in TCL India, I've always emphasized to the team that content is king, and we view it as a very important way to influence the purchase decision of potential gadget buyers. So previously, we've done much on what we have, feature level communication, but now we have changed to what about what we have. Expand the content marketing from the third-party agency, and we spend more time than before in strategizing our content marketing and communication in what the technology and those product KSPs can bring to the customers. And hence, more budget will put into the brand and product videos, tech bloggers, and media reviews, roughly 3 times more than 2 years ago, creating those content. And one more thing we've did differently is that we motivate our in-house product trainer to become the internal KOL. Making a lot of the product related videos, content, communicate on our YouTube channel. Even our chairman visit our India, and he saw our approaches. So basically, we're trying different ways of diversifying our content, strategizing content based on these products.
Wonderful. I'm pretty certain that Nitin would have like some points to add on, content marketing for sure, considering 91 Mobiles is not just a gadget discovery platform, but also a tech publishing space. So please go ahead, Nitin, if you have anything to say.
Yeah, this bread and butter for us. But I think I'd like to say that, content strategy, the way we look at it and work with gadget brands on sort of should flow from the targeting, that we discussed previously. So I habitually check my news in the morning on the Times of India app, and once in a while, I see some article talking about promoting a washing machine or some appliance category or things like that, and I think to myself that this is such a waste, because if I'm not buying a washing machine right now for another year or so, then that communication is sort of wasted on me. And with content marketing, the question that comes to mind is that if ads in today's day and age in digital are targeted, then why isn't content? Right? If ads are targeted, why isn't content targeted? So, what is the science behind it? The way we look at it is that, if you were to target content basis the in-market audience segments that you talked about. So let's say you've defined somebody who's in market right now is a brand neutral buyer. He's looking on the basis of some features or prices. You could target content to that person. Let's say someone's searching for a front load washing machine or an LED TV or something like that. You could target while buying a product like that, and then work in subtly, how your product delivers on those features. On the other hand, someone who's, let's say, looking at a competitor product or a competitor brand while buying, and you identify that person, to that person you've got to tell them how your product and your brand is superior to the one being offered by your competitor, right? And lastly, if someone's already looking at a product from your own brand, then you basically just need some reinforcing about why you should go ahead and buy. So if you sort of define your cohorts of let's say 5-10 lakh people who are in market right now, split them into these categories, I think that's where your content strategy sort of flows from. And I think one other aspect to this is sort of the layering or the funnel strategy, as we call it, which is that one content piece or one or two touch points doesn't do it, right? So like I think Shirish, I think, had pointed out that people spend 2 to 3 weeks in the research phase. Once you know which cohort that person falls in, you follow that person for those 2 to 3 weeks, not once but twice, and there'll be research on this that says that your odds of converting that person go up if you reach out to that person as much as 4, 5, 6 times, with content that takes the person from the top of the funnel, down, introduces your product, influences them, tells them why it's good, and then towards the end is when the person has heard of it, knows why it's good, is when you show ads to that cohort to push them into buying. So I think just to sum up, I think good content marketing builds awareness. It's an art, but I think great content marketing is a science, and it actually ties in nicely with the end results that you're trying to drive.
Thank you so much, Nitin. I want to understand if Mr. Kumar or Deva, if you guys have any thoughts on this differently in your industry. I mean, we've been looking at one side of the thing. I mean, in larger durables and appliances, is it any different?
Should I go first?
Marketing. Yes, please.
Yeah, I think content for durables has got many interpretations. It depends what kind of brand you are, first of all, because if you are a brand which is highly successful and it's already there in the consumer's mind, then content has to play a different role altogether. And if you are a challenger brand, it has to play a different role altogether. For us, being a leading brand in the cooling space category, for us, content has to be engaging instead of just pushing features and product demos. So it has to be engaging, and it has to take a little different strategy altogether. So we use content for building affinity. We don't use content to drive traffic or sales, because that's something which we feel that's a different strategy altogether. To drive sales, you need to have a different strategy. To drive the brand affinity, you need to use content very strategically. So there are two different ball games altogether. Now look at the e-commerce space, where the action is today. Marketplace, direct tie-ups, brand stores, right? Now, the marketplace and direct tie-ups constitute almost 80% of the e-commerce space today. Now, certainly content will not drive that business which you create. A different strategy is required to capture that business, right? Balance 20% is with new portals in the durable space, which is they're trying to make their impression in the consumer's mind. Unfortunately, it's very difficult to make that impression today.
That is.
And 2 to 4% is the web store. Okay, and that's where you can really have a good time with your content and pamper the consumer.
I'll come to that.
I'll come to that. And you need to really take it seriously as we move along in the journey towards pampering the consumer on your web store. So content and web store is something which, yes, I think we can look into it. Content on your social handles, yes. Content has to be topical for us, because if you want to build affinity, in the last 14 months or in the last 12 months, our content was all around how to service your products, perhaps how to maybe change your filter. And when you don't get a guy to come to your house to clean up your air conditioning filter, what do? You need to post those DIY videos to help the consumer to get on with that act. So it has to be engaging, it has to be topical, it has to create a story sometimes also with the consumer, and that's how content has to be created and used. But parallelly, the search traffic has to be also looked into. The intent, the keyword targeting, the category targeting has to play a vital role simultaneously. So I think both the things have to work together. And I think we'll discuss that in the next question, perhaps. Yeah.
Yes, Vishal. Mr. Kumar, please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I think, like Deva said, of course, content marketing has roles to play in different parts of what you want to do. It could be linked with a brand purpose and in terms of creating engaging content, but maybe more to answer from the context of, the topic of this today's discussion, which is in the Flipkart, Amazon era. If I step back and actually, if you see, typically the manufacturer is the most trusted, credible, and authentic source of information.
Right.
And I think that for me is a starting point that opens up, therefore, significant, role that manufacturers can play with their own content, and that can set them apart in the way that they can, positively influence the decision path. So I would probably start from there, and I think it will then feed into, therefore, of course, how do you actually make that come alive? What are the experiences that you can create? And I think back to invest a 90-10 principle, 10% on content production, 90% on amplification. I think when you start talking about content production in the era of this topic, what we're talking about today, I think equally so, we need to be extremely clear about content production and maybe even go to a 50-50 stage where you're talking about production versus amplification.
Right, got it. Okay, so now moving on to the next point, and it comes back from what Deva was mentioning. What is the role in your own brand site or store when it comes to building salience with guided bias? Now, how significant is this channel? And when you would look at the percentage of online sales, especially considering the Amazon and Flipkart era, and apart from sales, of course, sales is one thing. How can the brand side be leveraged to build preference for your products among your prospective buyers? Who may actually make the purchase as well, like we were mentioning, right? Shirish, I would actually like to start off with you on this one. I'm sure you would have thoughts as well.
Yeah. So Irshad, there is no doubt that your own channel can give you a lot of first-party data, which eventually you can use to customize messaging for your customers and give them the best-in-class experience. In addition to that, if I talk about our own platform and how we try to differentiate from all the other platforms, third-party platforms, is that we try to offer some additional values. Now, for example, if someone coming to my own e-com platform, they don't just get to buy a product, they can buy the host of other services, like you can buy extended warranties, you can buy spare parts, okay, you can apply for a service with just one touch, or if you are looking for a premium service, we can arrange a faster delivery for you, we can provide same-day installation. But at the same time, the fact is also that you can't dictate terms to consumers. Eventually as a brand, what you can do is you can try to give best of the values, doing merit with the respective platform, and leave the choice to the consumer. Reason being, I would say that there is no global definition to value. For example, Ishad, you might see value in paying 500 rupees extra if you are getting the installation on the same day, right? But at the same time, I might see value in waiting for 2-3 days if I get to save those $500. So depending on that, the best thing as a brand, what you can do is you can give multiple options to consumers. You can provide best-in-class experience across all the platforms. And the most important thing, you don't have to treat any third-party platform as your competition. You need to treat them as their partners. Because like I said, the choice lies with the consumers. Wherever they see more value, they will go with that particular platform. So as a brand, you should look at consumer point of view and provide maximum value irrespective of the platform.
That's right. Mr. Justin, do you have any take on this? What do you think about building your own brand store?
So I think like from our brand. So first of all, we take the brand website is actually the center platform of our online communication. So it's not just we think it's not just a platform displaying products, but it's a platform for us to build a relationship with the customers. Like Suresh has said, customers rely on the website to get more official information, which is more like accurate and reliable to them. So, and we'll put the this product promotion service, news and blogs there to feed and update to the customers. It is I think this is a positive catalyst for the brand online sales. So now we're actually in a very early stage of building our own brand soul. So we actually built this brand soul last year in the mid of this pandemic, this national lockdown of India that during the March. So but we have seen positive trends, and ever since we built this brand soul, we've seen 2 times growth month on month, and currently we try to provide maximum information to the customers of what kind of service they can get, what kind of products they can get from our websites. But and there's a interesting discoveries that we found the customers who buy it in our website. Our brand soul is actually they're more high-end products direct brand soul. I think that is a good time for us and also the future business.
That's great. Deba, like you were mentioning, you have something to say. Please go ahead about building your own brand store.
Okay, so I think first of all, our brand store is hosted in our group company's portal, Tata Click, and we feel that whatever traffic we get on our website, which is organic in nature, should go to a place where you can have much more than just our brand store. So we have strategically diverted the traffic towards Tata Click, where we have our own brand store. But coming to a fundamental point in terms of how do you manage this whole dynamics of commerce? We're talking about e-commerce, right? Just talking about feel good. So the commerce dynamics are such in India that you need to shift the consumer from just looking at price to looking at convenience to looking at loyalty. Somebody was mentioning about how to build that loyalty. So I think the web store plays a vital role in building that loyalty, and one has to engage with the consumer through the web store. Because there was a time, maybe 3 years back, where price was the factor for online sales. Last 1 year, we have seen prices not only the only factor, right? There is convenience, there is other things, there's installation, there's many other things which play a vital role in consumer durables. Buy a product, high ticket appliance, gets dumped on your doorstep outside, maybe below a tower. Who gets it up? Who installs it for you? Nobody knows. So when you have a web store, that cracks that whole puzzle in a simpler manner. So there are opportunities with durables to pamper the consumer through the web store, which I don't think many of the e-commerce portals can do that today. So you need to create that differentiation in your processes when you open up the web store. Of course, loyalty programs and butler services and all that is there, and we need to work around that. But the consumer is looking at something tangible, and those tangibles was once upon a time pricing, but today it is much more than pricing, and we need to work around it. Today, we are the highest search brand in the air conditioning business. 49% people searched for us on the month of March within the AC domain, right? We have online share of the business, which is maximum. We have offline share, which is maximum. How to take care of both the partners together? There are channel dynamics involved. There are channel conflicts involved. So you need to differentiate your SKUs in such a way that the dynamics are managed and both the channels perform to their best of their abilities. Right? So online, offline dynamics are there. Web store plays a vital role in, I would say, balancing these dynamics out in a strategic manner, and that's what we focus on. So our web store is all about the fact that how do we showcase our range of products, existing as well as new, and how do we build that loyalty with the consumer. But the offline channel also plays a vital role for us, and we don't want to neglect that. Yeah.
That is right. I'm pretty certain that Mr. Madhur, you would have definitely something to say for how Samsung has built its own online store and what it does specifically to target its audiences.
Sure, Rishad. I think the first, before I get into what we at Samsung have done, I think the one thing that we have learned definitely is a great marketing site is not always a great commerce site. Sometimes there are trade-offs involved. If you load too much content, but it takes too much time to load, you lose the sale. Maybe you get the message across to the consumer. Or if you don't have any content, just have a very quick site, maybe you're not selling your products enough or positioning them enough when the consumer on your website. So it's not an easy one. I think we've gone through that journey of figuring out where the balance is between disseminating information to consumers in the right manner, versus giving them a journey which is easy, snappy, least number of clicks, and fastest checkout possible. It's a constant improvement area. We continue to focus on that and improve and strike a balance between these two benefits. That said, at Samsung, our Samsung.com platform is extremely important, hugely important to us. It's a place where we see that if a consumer comes to Samsung.com, we have to try and close the deal right there. We should not let them ponder over what to buy, where to buy. Let's give them an experience that enables them to buy our products on the platform if they've come to the platform. And the way we do that and the way we differentiate versus what we do with Amazon, Flipkart is create Samsung.com as a premium retail destination. So while high velocity items might be showcased more on other websites, this is where the crown jewels of our portfolio, the foldable phones or the flagship devices, or the side-by-side refrigerators or the QLED or 8K TVs get the prominent share of merchandising. That's where we want, and not to say that we don't sell other stuff on our website. We do, but this is where we like to focus our attention on and our consumers' attention on. Secondly, we like to create unique offerings that are not easily available on the third-party marketplaces. For example, we have these set of advantage programs on Samsung.com as well as our shopping app. We reward you when you buy more from Samsung across categories. You get more rewards. If you're a student and you can validate yourself as a student, you get a special offer. If you are somebody from a company that is empaneled with us and you can validate that, you get a special offer. We have unique affordability programs and trade-in advantages which are not always available on Amazon and Flipkart. So through those unique offerings, we try and convert the customer right there, and we have to back it up with a great delivery experience and a great support experience. The likes of Flipkart and Amazon have set the gold standard for that. A fast delivery, great support. We have to match up to that or exceed that in some ways. Hence, things like next day delivery, same day delivery, great customer support, e-promoter and video promoter experiences in pre-buying as well as post-buying, virtual demos. Some of those things we try and do in terms of the technical capabilities and then the support capabilities of the website as well, to make sure that the product reaches you on time. And if you have a problem, there will be times where you won't get the product on time. If you have a problem, we resolve it for you. Our agents resolve it for you very quickly.
Thank you so much. I want to talk to Anuj here because Anuj, you have a slightly different business. It's not a B2C business, it's a B2B2C business, right? And you still need to have a brand website and do some things differently. So what is your take on how to talk to your customer with your brand site?
Absolutely. You correctly mentioned out, even with the different category of partners, since we are having, different categories of products. And also we are primarily catering to the, most of the OEMs and ODMs in the ecosystem. And, if even though the last mile stores are not perhaps direct relevance to us, right? However, with the changing market dynamics, and it is really becoming really important, that end consumer are aware of the benefits of using powered by MediaTek-based products. This is becoming a need of an hour today. And that's when e-commerce platforms such as Amazon or Flipkart, we are also having, our stores, on these, e-tailers, wherein we are trying to provide all kind of consumer information which is relevant to that of powered by MediaTek products. And not only that, I believe, and we are also, working around improving consumer experiences on a website, as some of our, co-panelists also mentioned. It's really important, to have that kind of a relevant information, available everywhere, right? Of course, as a last mile, as a call to action, we do have the e-commerce portals. However, it is also very important to keep on updating right kind of information on the social media platforms and other various platforms, whatever we are working with, right? And we also see, that there is a great opportunity to offer a user-friendly experience, right? Which any consumer is able to capitalize on, consumer conversions, right? Just by creating a user-friendly information portals for them. because end of the day, communicating the information to the customers, I believe that is really important, be it around product portfolio, reviews, pricing, segmentation, right? I think a simplified and an easy way to navigate such kind of information given to end consumer experience, it always adds a value, right? And well, I think they play a very important and incredible role here, right, by providing a seamless resource experience for any of the end consumers. I mean, for a brand like us, like I said, probably to provide a invaluable kind of a experience to a customer, end of the day, it's really important. That's when content, at any stage, right? I would just like to add that three golden words which we all have been using somewhere or other, right? Well, content certainly builds relationships, and relationships are built on trust, and eventually trust drive revenues, right? So in a manner, that kind of information has to be available in any of the forms, even for a brand like us at MediaTek.
Right, got it. Mr. Kumar, does Whirlpool do anything differently with respect to brand side that you would like to highlight to the audience?
I think a lot in agreement with what we heard some of our colleagues talk about. For sure, I think the tough part is straddling the marketing experience versus the commerce experience. And I think that's what Madhu talked about in our Samsung experiences as well. For sure, I think those are some tough choices to be made. But without a doubt, the purpose of the existence of the brand website is to create customer engagement and lifetime value out of all the customers that we can create direct experiences with. And for sure, like Deva mentioned, it needs to work in partnership with our partners, whether they're both e-commerce partners or our offline partners. This is a conversation that actually, in my mind, in a lot of places, also makes them part of the solution. And it's not only necessary that it is linked out of an experience that is just us. So I think there are a lot of online to offline experiences that are being experimented by many manufacturers in India. And especially for durables, as manufacturers, we don't have last mile, right? So there are definitely, therefore, interesting partnerships we can create to make that come alive.
Great, awesome. Nitin, I'd like to close with you on this particular question. I'm pretty sure that you have a slightly different take because you're actually getting all of these brands together, and especially with respect to e-commerce as well, you're sort of listing both Flipkart and Amazon on your website. So please go ahead.
Yeah, so I think most of it's been covered. I'll just give a perspective from the point of view of helping out with shopping research. So for the smartphones category, I think because of the sheer volumes of people that are researching, I think there's a lot of content out there on sites like ours, yours, Irshad, and many others.
Yeah.
That sort of explains various specs, features, demystifies, helps people make this shopping research decision. But for other categories and appliances and all, where the volumes are not that high, I think there's a bit of a gap in the market. The same quality experience is not always visible, right? So I'm saying that even if brand sites don't sell too much or at all because of channel conflict or whatever reason, I think it's a good opportunity for brands to provide this information to buyers and help them along in their purchase journey, and so that, and use this process to sort of prime them and influence them so that wherever they end up, whether on Flipkart, Amazon, or offline, that they've built a preference for their brand in the journey. And I think a lot of brands do a good job of it, but many times, when I say shopping research, that there are to build a smooth experience is difficult. So there are times when specs could be missing or features are not explained or demoed well enough, where you have search and filtering options or comparison options that sort of maybe a little glitchy. Sometimes there is information, but it's a little promotional in nature, for people who don't necessarily believe it. There could be, so these days, for instance, there's real-time pricing and availability that you can map from on various e-commerce sites, which should be possible to do. Missing on sites. At times, the mobile experience of viewing the site on mobile may not be as seamless as desktop. And I think lastly, one of the issues that I've seen is that a lot of times sites get this right, but don't necessarily have a great SEO. And therefore, in spite of having a good product, the discoverability is a question. So I think getting all of this right is tough. We've been doing it for over 8 years now for the mobiles category and for a couple of years for other categories as well. But I think this is definitely something helping people narrow down, research, figure out what to buy. I think it's something that brands should definitely do, in the sense that they should be their own publishers, right? Whether by doing it themselves or partnering with someone, sites like ours to power it for them, to deliver a grade A consumer grade experience on the nothing short of what Flipkart and Amazon do in terms of people being able to research and figure out what they want to buy. So I think a good example here is Amazon themselves. So even they realize the value of building some of this explainer top of the funnel content for their electronics categories. And Amazon themselves partner with us to host a microsite called Amazon Central on 91 mobiles, where we host rich content information about a lot of the high value consumer electronic products and help people narrow down to what they'd like to buy, and then obviously refer them to Amazon once they've decided. So I think there is something in it for, if there's something in it for Amazon, definitely something in it for all brands to push as much as they can on this bit.
Wonderful. I think we have some great questions coming in from the audience. I think we could take them. And in fact, this one is directed at Mr. Suresh. Hemant asks, since you mentioned that brands should focus more on value creation from the user's perspective and take decisions which should create more value, but doesn't it make the brand value diluted if the brand keeps thinking about users' expectations? Innovation gets lost. Please share your thoughts on this. This is what Hemant asks.
So actually what I meant by that is, digital gives you a lot of liberty wherein you can map the entire consumer decision journey. You know that at what stage a particular consumer is in his or her purchase cycle. So the way you to use digital is, because of course this has also been mentioned multiple times, that it's becoming much and much more cluttered. When it comes to marketing, and digital also as a platform is too cluttered. But at the same time, if you start seeding in content which is more relevant to that stage of a particular consumer, that I think builds a different kind of engagement. I'll give you an example. Now, earlier Anuj mentioned there are 4 stages that a consumer usually go through. Let's look at awareness, which is an evolved stage. Then you have a search stage, then you have a purchase stage, then you have a post-purchase stage. Now, in the evolved stage, I go and target the consumer with a lot of brand-led or a product-led content, right? When I know the consumer has reached a second stage where they are basically searching or researching, they are doing comparison, I go and target them with a content which probably, differentiate my offerings, which highlights my USPs, okay? So to build that edge over competition. Now, when the consumer comes into the purchase stage, I can go and target them with any kind of value that I'm offering. It could be EMIs, it could be cashback, it could be installation, it could be extended warranties, XYZ. So basis this, you can actually make your content extremely relevant, and authenticity and relevance is something that defines, helpful content. And our job as a marketer is to serve our consumers, not to sell them actually. So if you serve them better, I think your job will be done. I think this is what I meant by that.
I would completely take that strategy. Thank you. And this one is for you, Mr. Madhur. Abid asks, how does the content strategy change between phones, accessories, and durables, since the frequency of phone launches is higher? And that's a very good question, actually.
Sure. I think it changes and has to be changed for phones. Related categories are also different. For example, the content strategy for tablets and wearables would be very different to then what is there for the appliances. And the key changes are the following. For phones, a lot of the time, the need of the phone is already established. It's my life in a phone, right? All our consumers, everything, the phone is everything for them. They're seeing it so many times. So the content strategy very often would be about why should you choose my phone versus the other available options in the market. In case of things like tablet, these are not all-in-one devices. Everybody's life is not on that tablet, but for the users for which people use a tablet, it's extremely important. If I'm buying a tablet for my kid, I want to buy it right now, and I want the best device that should not fail a live class. Or if I'm doing to attend a conference like this or work meetings, again, I can't. I have to get a top device which doesn't fail me. Tablets are also an entertainment device, and therefore our content in case of tablets talk more to the use cases of the device rather than the features of the device or the specs of the device. In some categories like wearables, the content has to also create a category. It has to tell you why you should buy why you should buy any wearable and then why you should buy my wearable, because the importance of a fitness band or a wireless, earphone or whatever is not fully established amongst all consumers. And in case of appliances, as I think Deva said, content has to create affinity towards the brand, because somebody won't change their refrigerator just because a new one is around the corner. They will change when they probably need to change it, and when they need to change it, do they go for your brand, and therefore by extension your product, as opposed to other options. I think that brand affinity element and storytelling becomes very important for larger brands. So that's how, from a low frequency category like phones to a large sort of a large replacement cycle category like appliances, the content strategy has to be possibly adapted.
Changes. Right. So Saurabh has many questions, but one specific thing that sort of caught my attention is, how does one get the idea of the kind of content that they can do to sort of get to a buyer? For example, how does one come up with the idea of giving a mobile to an influence, the car to the influencer to go to Ladakh? He saw something similar on Zomato. How does one even come with that idea? Where does the creative process start? Does anybody have any answer to that? Please take it up.
Let me take a crack at that. I think firstly, there's no clear answer to. It's like any good brainstorming where there's a lot of unstructured method to it, while there's some sort of structured method to it as well. I think you would think about what will consumers find interesting and will watch. At the same time, does it go with your product, and does it have a space where your product features, USPs, or stories around your brand can be showcased within that engaging content? That's the second element. And a lot of long evenings and long nights, just pushing ourselves and teams to come up with better and better ideas. I think that's what it takes, and not always you would come up with something great in spite of these long nights. So you have to be at it again the next morning till you get the right thing.
I think I'll just add to what Madhur said. The objective might be to drive usage and application of your offering. I mean, the idea is encapsulated from there, but at the same time, like Madhur mentioned, you have to package it in a manner that makes it interesting for the viewer. But the overall intent behind rolling out such content is wherein you want to showcase the usage and application, and it actually is an extremely important content piece for us in consumer durable. Reason being, the penetration of categories like washing machine, microwave ovens, and refrigerator is still low. So we try and drive a lot of usage and application of this product to make sure and understand the consumer that how it simplifies your life. But at the same time, you can't just straight away go and show them, okay, this is how you wash your clothes on washing machine. The whole creativity lies in the fact that how you package it and make it more interesting. I think that's how you come up with such ideas.
Yeah, I think I can take an example of. I can add to that in terms of an example of a new category, dishwashers, which we created last year. No forced content. It was there for people to take, and the dishwasher content was lapped up all across the spectrum. A new category got created online completely, and all of us went for that category. And so see the results of dishwasher category. It's a new product got created in everybody's household. So it need not be very pushy. You can create it in an interesting way so that people can engage with it and also use it at the right time.
I think no clear recipe here, but probably keep on making nice kind of spaghetti, keep on throwing it on the wall, whatever sticks there, right? Probably would be the great recipe for all, right? One has to keep on trying that, absolutely.
I'd like to take one final question from Saurabh itself, and we'll close the session after this. Is that are the ads that are displayed on digital platforms, they're going to cross the television ads in the future? This is a nice futuristic looking question. Do you think that digital ads will actually overtake television ads in the future? What are your thoughts? Mr. Kumar, do you have any thoughts on this? And I think Nitin also is smiling very, very hard. So I'm pretty certain that he wants to say something as well.
I was going to say I hope so, but I'll other people go first. Yeah.
Mr. Kumar.
I think as much as we try and see into the crystal ball, If I were to bet, and if you ask me for my thoughts on where I would see this going, I still believe that the reach and the impact of a television as a medium is a space where I think it will still overshadow what it is possible for us to do with non-television. So I would go out there and maybe go out on a limb to say, I don't think it's time to call the death of the TV spot just yet. It still has reach, it still has content, it still pulls engagement. For sure, of course, those mixes will keep changing. I see digital has the power of definitely getting there. There are still also a lot of challenges. Digital doesn't allow for you to truly target as efficiently as you want to. It doesn't allow for you to optimize across the walled gardens like e-commerce and social and say traditional GDN spaces. So, I think there are a few places where I think digital ecosystems need to evolve to be able to take on the might of the traditional, Goliaths like the television. But I think that's what everybody is doing. We can see new business models and new ecosystems being created, even with Amazon going into the entire marketplace advertising revenue generation model, where it's going to take on Google. I think it's going to start creating new futures from what's going to come out and evolve in India. So let's see how that evolves.
Great. There is one quick question that I want to take. Sorry.
Just to add to
Please.
that, I think to offer this perspective, I think in some pockets, what you are asking is already happening. So there's this growing flock of new direct-to-consumer brands, right, which are digital first, are building their entire brand, and we are starting to see the first set of these that are triple-digit crore brands, 100 crore plus brands now that have been built predominantly on the back of digital, right? And these are companies that, and for the foreseeable future, where their digital marketing spends will outspend TV or practically any mass media, right? Because they've leveraged digital natively to build the brand. So I think in pockets, digital is already overtaking. I mean, the question of when it will do so for the brands that are on the panel today, I think it's anybody's guess, but it's headed there. And I think especially newer brands that know how to leverage the medium really well, for them, it's a no-brainer and already happening.
Right. This question actually even I had, so I just want to take this quickly before we close. It's like is Mr. Nagendra asking? I would like to know, has the number one AC brand in Japan, Communication, created an impact to gain more trust to enhance the buying decision towards Panasonic brand in India especially?
I think it does work at some level, in the sense, again, I say it helps in driving validation. I think when it comes to technology, people have that faith and trust in Japanese technology. So, and there is no harm in going and blowing your trumpet if you have been, number one in Japan for successive years. So any kind of validation that works, and during the construction phase, I think we are happy to go and blow a drum there. So yes, it does help. And when we go and talk to our trade partners and channel partners, I think the response is extremely positive from their side, that they feel that it helps them in, not just push, but actually it generates certain kind of pull also from customers. So yeah, that's how we are going ahead and marketing that.
Wonderful. I think that's all for today. I think it was a great insightful session, at least for myself. I did get to learn a lot. I hope you gentlemen also enjoyed the session, and the questions from the audiences were also pretty good. So thank you so much for your time, taking out time and doing this for CMO Week.
Thank you.
I hope we see each other soon. Stay safe, everybody who's also watching, and stay safe, all of you.
Thank you, Shad.
Thank
Great
you.
session.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Great session. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.